What's going on, everybody? LK here, and today I want to talk a little bit about Season 2. So, this morning at 7 a.m. EST, so if you're lucky enough to live in EU, it's about like 1 p.m. in the afternoon for you, or probably a little bit later. If you live on, let's say, West Coast, like Cali or something, this is like 4 a.m. in the morning for you. Arxis did a live stream with a bunch of announcements and talk about Season 2, but they didn't really talk too much about Season 2. So for those who didn't stay up, I'm going to try to wrap the stream up for you. It was a decently long one, but essentially we got a couple of nuggies out of this. So important nugget number one, apparently Soul is the best character. Woo! Okay, important nugget number two, apparently the most popular song is the theme of this game. All right. And important thing number three, we do have a date for Season 2. So, Season 2, the date is June 10th. So, this is 2 weeks from now. As far as I know, I'm looking at the calendar right now like a professional. This is 2 Fridays from now. So, Combo Breaker actually won't be the last tournament on this patch. So, it will be the last really, really, really big tournament on this patch. But the last like titled tournament on this patch that I'm aware of will be DreamHack Dallas, which is the week before, basically like a few days before that. They also shared some other news, such as a starter pack for the game. So it's like a full set that it said 5,980 yen. So that is like $60 basically. Has all the DLC, colors, stages. So it's a nice little way for people to get into the game. That was pretty nice. Some stuff on merch. And they did share a couple of small nuggets about the patch. Mainly that it has significant balance changes, significant changes of the game, and they actually mentioned a couple of small things such as fixing a bug that exists with backdash, adding an FD macro, and many, many, many more. So to quickly illustrate what they were talking about, so there's two things. So one is the backdash bug. I think I mentioned this in a video before, but essentially we have a dash macro. So you can see here that when I press the dash button, there's a little run that shows up, as opposed to when I tap forward. Depending on like what thing I'm doing, I'll use a different input. Normally with dash, I use like run, but for air dashing, I tend to mix up using the dash button, just because air dashing is kind of weird in this game compared to other games, because it's a little extra startup. I also heavily rely on the dash macro for doing like these faultless defense cancel dashes, which would probably be slightly more executionally intensive if I did not have this macro. Now, one thing that is really popular in this game and will basically be popular in any game that has a lot of negative frames on offense, like this game does, is dash and blocking. And in this game, it's easier because you have one less input. You have a button instead of doing forward. So this affects a couple things. One, it's easier, of course. Two, you can do it way faster because tapping forward on, like, let's say a lever or something, or even a pad, even though on a pad it's technically like a button, takes more effort than just tapping this button. But for some reason, and I think it's because of how large the buffer is for this game. So if you don't know what a buffer is, it's how the game accepts inputs. For whatever reason, if you do it too fast, the dash block too fast, you'll get backdash like this. So this should be pretty easy to see why this is a problem, but just having this character on the screen should give you an idea what I'm gonna do. So here I have Happy Chaos doing the thing you love. Maybe it's a little bit slow, but you know, out here shooting. So if I try to dash block in between these, which is a really common strategy in the game, and I did it a little too fast, this will happen, and this really sucks. And there is a way around this actually. So you can hold FD, so you hold the buttons and dash, and then when you want to block, just tap back, and you'll stop instantly. With that being said, it took a while for this to be discovered. So this one is one I'm really glad to see go. But then they mentioned another one, that they're adding a new macro for Faultless defense. So there's a similar problem here. So right now we don't have an FD macro. The only things we have so far are dash, roaming cancel, and burst. Roaming cancel, just like dash, the game shows RC like it's its own thing. I don't use this macro. I use the traditional way. I just press 3 buttons. And for those curious, for drift RC, I piano dash into the 3 buttons. But then we have burst, which doesn't have a unique button input. So again, when you do dash and RC, they have, let's say, their own button input, where burst just defaults to HS and D. This is how I input my burst anyway. So here you can't really tell the difference between me pressing the button with just the macro and me pressing 2 buttons. So with that in mind, FD macro, right? So the reason behind this is that sometimes when you tap FD, to my understanding, you will get a Kara FD instead, and you might actually have 1 frame of getting a button, which means a button can come out, and then you can get hit by that. I'm sure there are times where you were blocking or something, you try to FD, and you got counter hit instead, and you go, oh, my FD. It would be tragic for something like that to happen here. Now, while this one doesn't happen very often for me, it definitely does come up. So they're adding a macro in order to help with this, and hopefully they just fix the bug also. But there's a concern that there might be really strong techniques that come from this defensively. So the issue that people are having is that it might open really strong defensive techniques, because if they put it on 1 button, it might make things a little bit funky. So as an example, the first example I actually thought of was from Granblue. So there are some really, really nasty defensive option selects. They usually take these out the game too when people find them.
And before I get into explaining how it's done, I'll just show the examples for how it ends up being used, right? So we've got 2 and 4A here, and it's slightly negative. I think it is -3. You can see Charlotta's blue here, right? And Fairy flickers her guard twice. So those are the 2 ProxOS points. And what the hell is ProxOS? You'll see. Right? Boom. If I try to take my turn, I get hit. So, that's not so bad. I know how ProxOS works. I'm just gonna delay my attack. She blocked. Okay. I'm just gonna take my turn a different way then. Okay. Huh? Huh? Huh?
So this was taken out of Granblue. This was an option select that was built off the presence of a block button, which the game was made in mind with. An option select that could basically, in certain situations, since the guard button did not take high priority inputs, you could either just block or have a special move or super come out. This is generally referred to as a proximity option select. To my knowledge, this was in Strive before and they took it out, but there was no macro around FD, so we don't know what type of thing can come from an FD macro. If it just shortcuts 2 buttons like burst, it should probably be fine. But if it has its own dedicated thing, who knows? But that was basically all they gave us. If it's anything like previous patches, you should get a pretty in-depth rundown of all the changes, both on a system level and a character level. And as they said, again, there are a ton of those. So I'm really looking forward to that. But for now, we just got one little droplet. As usual, if you guys have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if y'all feel like it. And I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.